This is every dinosaur or species featured in Dinosaur Planet Pod's Travels. And we are starting off big. These guys are called Ankylosaurus, which mean vine lizard. These guys are part of the sauropod lineage, and what is special about these guys is that they were known to have a large layer of osteoderms on their back. And what osteoderms are is that they are essentially nature's body armor. And this comes, think crocodiles for example. They also have osteoderms, the same with Ankylosaurus. And this works wonders for predators, or against predators. Now then, we move on to a much bigger relative of the Velociraptor. This guy, Pod, is what's known as Pyroraptor olympius, or Olympus's fire thief. Pyroraptor was much bigger in comparison to Velociraptor. It would stand much taller. I'm not working with an exact size estimate. But these guys currently on Pod's Island reign as one of the more dangerous predators. And much like Velociraptor, same plan, bigger body. These guys were very dangerous killers, especially for the next animals we're about to talk about. Okay, so we're on to our next animal, and more importantly, our first inaccuracy for the episode. These guys are called Iguanodon, but here's the thing. Iguanodon and Pyroraptor did not live at the same time. These guys are more than likely an unknown or unnamed iguanodontid or ornithopod. But, much like the real animal, they can traverse from 2 legs to 4, allowing them to not only graze on grass below, but graze from the trees up top. And much like the actual animal, they would have a thumb claw that would be a perfect defense against predators. Not to mention is that it seems they both have a beak, but also batteries of teeth. One more thing before I continue. When I say inaccuracy, Pyroraptor lived what is near France, while Iguanodon at the time lived in what is now the UK. Now we move on to Pod's number 1 enemy. This is an Abelosaurid, which an Abelosaurid is part of the group called the Abelosaurs, meaning dinosaurs like Majungasaurus and Carnotaurus. But this is a smaller relative, and this is what's known as Tarascosaurus. This is currently where Pod lives now, before he is on the Hatseg Island, which will be explained in a bit. This is his biggest enemy, and more importantly, this is the island's most dominant predator, because they are much bigger than Pod. What Abelosaurs are known for are comically stubby arms, but their teeth and jaws are designed in a way to grab and hold on to prey, not slice like Carnosaurs or crush like Tyrannosaurs. Okay, time for another animal, but I'm explaining the inaccuracy here. Plesiosaurs are not able to lift their heads out of the water. That's not how that works, because it's too much effort and would actually harm the animal. But I'm going to find a better shot. Here's the better image of what I was talking about, or the better shot. Now, think crossing a snake going through a turtle's shell type situation. Plesiosaurs, specifically, I think this is supposed to be Elasmosaurus, but I could be wrong. It is simply referred to as a plesiosaur. But they are known for having extremely long necks, extremely big bodies with short heads, although it doesn't look like it on this one, and 4 flippers. These animals primarily ate fish, so the fact that this one could reach out of the water, yoink Pod's sister into the water, is highly unlikely. Now, we are introduced to a tiny version of Pod. No, this is actually a dinosaur called Balur. I'm not very familiar with this one, but essentially, currently Pod has washed up on Hatseg Island. Now, essentially, what this means is dinosaurs that were on Hatseg Island were essentially, tiny. And this is due to a situation called insular dwarfism. Basically, it means because of how, depending on how much space, resources, and the amount of predators available, it would determine how big an animal got or how big an animal shrunk. So we're moving on to the next animal. Crocodiles on land? Question mark. Sorry, I love doing this because it sets up my explanation. No, these are, yes, they're crocodiles, but they are terrestrial crocodiles. These guys are called Allodapasuchus. They function as rivals to Balor in this ecosystem, but, and I'm not even sure this is where the Allodapasuchus are meant to be. Again, this is another animal I'm not fully familiar with. But these guys are essentially the land equivalent to piranhas. Especially if they're in a big enough gang, they will maul anything that they can get their hands on. So you're going to notice in the next two videos or so that they will reuse models over and over again. Because you're wondering, didn't I just get through talking about Ankylosaurus, which was a titanosaur? Yes, I did. But these guys are a much smaller variant. Or not variant per se, but they are a much smaller species. These guys are called Magiriosaurus. Very small sauropods, especially when you consider that their relatives are the likes of Argentinosaurus, which rival the blue whale in size. And this is another situation of what I'm talking about, but these guys are actually a much different animal. These guys, while named dwarf iguanodon, these guys are actually called, they're another ornithopod called Rhabdodon. Again, they are essentially a smaller and different colored iguanodon because they look exactly the same. Now, I got nothing for these tiny things. These are simply referred to as troodons. But these are not, again, completely different time and location. These are going to be shared with the model I'm going to explain in the next episode. But these guys, I got nothing for these. Okay, I didn't have to do this one because I was out of original species to work with. But I had to mention them just so I can squeeze them every second I can. Because my phone is on limited battery, so I really have to hurry up to these episodes. These guys are not referred to as anything. They are simply known as dwarf abelisaurs in the episode, and every other form of media or wiki you can find. Essentially, yes, you can see they're actually quite similarly sized. Essentially, these things are Tarascosaurs, but smaller. Thanks so much for watching, and I'm going to start the next episode.